Good evening, bonsoir. Madam Minister, distinguished guests, I'm so proud to be with you tonight to receive this very special award, one that's been, let's say, 30 years in the making. Doris will be pleased to know I brought one of those reports with me now. It's a historical document, 30 years old. This is for you, a small gift from us. And I thank you for your kind introduction. I chuckled when you talked about Michael Adler, our dear friend, when she said good, bad, or indifferent. Because in our work with the World Federation of Americans Abroad in Cairo, it was so important to build trust so that we could achieve bipartisan success in Washington, D.C. And I remember there were times when, say, Republicans abroad thought I was too far to the left, and Democrats abroad thought I was too far to the right? And I said to my wife, Jean, well, if they're both grumbling, we must be doing something right. And it reminded me of George Shultz, former Secretary of State, who once said, if you're in the middle of the road, you get hit by traffic going both ways. Been there, done that, Mr. Secretary. Some of you know I grew up in the state of Iowa. It's a landlocked state, not particularly well known for international travel. In fact, what Iowa may be best known for is a little get-together that happens every 4 years. We call it the Iowa Caucus. Maybe you've heard of it. And growing up in Iowa, I was painfully shy. I know it's hard to imagine today, but it's true. So I spent a lot of time alone with my stamp collection. And whenever I would get in a new batch of stamps from around the world, I would go to my globe and I would spin the globe and I would find that country on the globe. And so that's how I started to learn about the world. At the same time, I came to appreciate an intrepid traveler on television from Iowa. I'll tell you about him in just a minute. Iowa has been blessed over the years with what I call swashbucklers. John Wayne, born in Winterset, Iowa, literally a stone's throw from the bridges of Madison County. Herbert Hoover, perhaps the greatest industrialist of his time. He had better luck in business than he did in the White House. And in more recent years, Denai Guerrera, you may remember her as the general protecting Wakanda, right, during Black Panther, the one who did the spear thing. So we've had more than our fair share of swashbucklers over the years. But one guy in particular brought that swashbuckler swagger back to Iowa. And that's that intrepid explorer, James T. Kirk, captain of the USS Enterprise. His mission, to boldly go where no one has been before. Right? Isn't that consistent with us as international travelers? But not just international, intergalactic. Well, I never became an astronaut, at least not yet. But the influence of Captain Kirk and my stamp collection have instilled in me a lifelong wanderlust and a great desire to see the world. Fast forward to today, I've had the privilege to visit upwards of 150 countries and territories around the world, and I feel very, very privileged to do that. I thought about this globalization yesterday when I was at the Museum of Humanity, the Musée de Rome, and how different we all are around the world, and yet how much we share together. Especially today, as we transcend boundaries and deal with truly global issues like AI, like pollution, like climate change. I saw this quote at the museum. Nous sommes tous les héritiers d'un patrimoine génétique et culturel qui nous est propre. The genetic and cultural heritage that binds us. I believe that only by seeing the world can one come to understand how much our cultures have in common and to celebrate what we share rather than focus on what divides us. Sadly, the world is full of negative stereotypes. I don't need to tell you that this includes stereotypes about Americans overseas, right? I'm sure I'm not the only one who believes that FATCA is not just a coincidence, where they came up with the name. And as Phyllis Michaud reminds us, Americans abroad are often regarded as, quote, tax avoiders, living it up in the sunny climes of the Mediterranean or the Caribbean, and as a consequence, they're often regarded as with mistrust. I imagine that many of you have encountered this. I can only speak from my own personal experience. I lived overseas 2 years in Oxford, England. I lived for a year in Cairo, attended the American University, and I lived for a year in Jerusalem, where I attended the Hebrew University. These years helped to shape my life, to change my worldview. And Arrow and overseas Americans have a global perspective that many Americans back home who have never traveled, who've never left the country, don't have. In fact, you are all ambassadors for the United States. And every single day, as citizen diplomats, you are making a difference. Madam Minister, please let Her Excellency the Ambassador know I'm not discounting U.S. government diplomacy at all. I'm just saying that citizen diplomacy is a great thing. It's always been important, and I think it may be even more meaningful today as we face challenges around the world. For me, America has always been a country of second chances. We don't really care why you come to America, whether it's religious persecution, economic deprivation, political repression, or just a chance to build a better future for your family. The USA, unique in the world, gives everybody a chance to start over. And around the globe, families are willing to risk life and limb for a second chance. Even today, especially today. This may sound a little sentimental to some of you, but I believe that America is still a beacon for the world, where we celebrate our heritage and our ethnicity without regard to race, creed, color, or orientations. I have experienced this firsthand through Rotary International and in my capacity as president of the National U.S. Arab Chamber of Commerce. And for most people around the world, despite our challenges, despite our shortcomings, America is still the land of milk and honey. In the Arab world, they say, one hand alone cannot clap. In other words, it's all about the partnerships. It's all about the partnerships. Like the one that I've been privileged to share with Arrow over the past 30 years. And I want to conclude my remarks tonight by referencing another partnership, the one that I share with my wife, Jean. Tonight, I'm getting a lot of credit for my service to Arrow, but none of this would have been possible without Jean's help. We have shared so much, including Arrow, over the years. For those who are unaware, Jean and I happen to be celebrating our 32nd wedding anniversary this week, and I can't think of a greater honor and privilege to spend it with you folks here tonight in Paris. Thank you, Jean. So on behalf of Jean and myself, we want to thank Arrow for giving us wonderful opportunities over the years. In conclusion, let us continue to carry the message to Washington until someday the U.S. Congress and the White House on a bipartisan basis come to understand the vital role that Americans abroad play as citizen diplomats. And let us continue the very important work of Arrow, not just for the sake of Americans and America, but also for the rest of the world, which depends on us. And let us continue working together to make the world a better place. Today, for us, but more important, for future generations. Thank you again for this very special honor, which I accept with great humility. Merci beaucoup.